Good afternoon, students. Seeing you after a long time in RATS. The purpose of this particular session will be miscellaneous. There are a few important exam topics that do not fit into any major system. Such have been compiled together and will be in future so that we cover all the questions as much as possible. The first in this miscellaneous will be the carcinoid tumor followed by retinoblastoma. Carcinoid tumor. The importance is given in the enclosure and it covers a good number of subjects including pathology, and the mode of questioning is given within the enclosure. And these will be the major subheadings that we should have in mind. Always I used to say, think of the subheadings will take you to the answer. And this is one of the important sources of reference. Carcinoid. It is carcinoma-like. That is why the suffix oid. It is a slow-growing tumor of neuroendocrine origin, commonly found in sites such as the midgut. It is a midgut tumor, and in addition, this produces a syndrome called the carcinoid syndrome. It is commonly seen in the appendix also. These tumors rarely metastasize, but there is an entity called as malignant carcinoid. They arise from a group of cells called the apodomas, amine precursor uptake and decarboxylation. That will be the property of these cells and hence the term apodomas. The tumor is well circumscribed. It is not capsulated, well circumscribed. I can draw a line around it. In fact, the mucosa is being elevated and it produces a pseudo polyp-like lesion. It can be a few centimeters in diameter or sometimes smaller also. The overlying mucosa is intact. It can be yellowish white or yellowish in color. There are no areas of hemorrhage or necrosis indicating that it is a benign tumor. See the previous picture also, there is a definite yellowish tinge covered by an intact mucosa. It presents by means of a carcinoid syndrome. In fact, this will be the first clue that the patient is having a tumor. The symptoms will be cutaneous flushing, asthmatic wheezing, right-sided vascular lesions or valvular lesions, cramps, diarrhea. So these will be the common things. These are due to the production of certain mediators such as histamine, serotonin, bradykinin, etc. As a result of which there will be a tremendous amount of reaction not proportional to the size of the tumor. And this is called as carcinoid syndrome. A carcinoid can also be seen in the lung. So this again, I find the same definition or description will fit in. It is a well circumscribed tumor. There are no areas of hemorrhage or necrosis. It is solid and it is somewhat pinkish white in color. And look at this particular one. There is one particular feature, specific feature, which I would like you to appreciate. Wherever I see, I find that there is a uniform pattern as though a child has drawn the glands. It has got that kind of a picture. And this is usually seen in endocrine glands. It has got such a morphology. So please remember the pattern. This will be described in subsequent slides. Look at this one again. If I see one particular field, I need not see any other. The cells are homogeneous. They are of the same size. Nuclei are all more or less similar. And there is hardly any mitosis. In some areas, I find a rosette-like arrangement can be found. So a glandular or a rosette-like arrangement. The tumor cells are uniform. They can be found in sheets or in nests like this. Organoid, that is a word I would like you people to remember. Organoid is a term used to describe the endocrine histology. Mitosis is scanty, necrosis absent. There are various patterns for this carcinoid histology. Nests. For example, in this case, I am finding one group of cells very well arranged within a configuration called nests. Insular pattern, trabecular pattern in linear strands. The cells are uniform, and sometimes the chromatin is described as the salt and pepper chromatin because there will be granules within the nucleus. The cytoplasm in addition is also granular because of the products it emits. What are the complications of the carcinoid syndrome? This will be better understood if I go back to the diagram. I shall be doing it shortly. There can be a carcinoid syndrome which is not in proportion to the tumor. So there can be a severe bradycardia, or there can be an abdominal distension, diarrhea can be present, flushing, hypotension, etc. Rarely it undergoes a malignancy. Metastasis is quite rare. Intersusception is a term that I would like you people to understand. Look at this one. There is a nodule that is projecting outside, and when there is going to be a peristaltic contraction of the intestine, this will be a blockade, as a result of which the proximal tube goes into the distal segment. This is called as intersusception. That will be one of the major complications of carcinoid tumor. The stains for it, there are two types. One is called as argentaffin or the silver stains, and the argyrophilic stains. And the treatment for this will be symptomatic treatment. You treat the various manifestations. Second one will be a surgical debulking when it produces obstruction or intersusception like symptoms. And third one will be steroid inhibitors. These are the three things that are used in management. It is a more complex and difficult condition to manage. Wait for some time until we go to the next topic. I hope you have understood this. The next one is retinoblastoma, totally unconnected with the first topic, and the importance is given here. Strangely, ophthalmology is another subject where it can be asked. It is one of the most common malignant tumors of childhood, and it usually occurs in children between 1 to 4 years of age, though it can be found up to 15 years. Both the sexes, male and female, are equally affected. It can be unifocal or unilateral. In rare cases, it can be bilateral. Look at this particular picture. Let me not waste it. The posterior chamber is almost completely filled with a tumor. And this is the optic nerve that I see. So this can be a pattern. It is caused by the retinoblastoma gene. There are two types. One can be familial, another one is sporadic. It can be caused by the retinoblastoma gene, and it follows a Knutson's double hit hypothesis. The chromosomal abnormality will be deletion of segment 14 in chromosome number 13. So what is this Knudsen hypothesis or a double hit hypothesis? The defect has to be in two different places, because one normal retinoblastoma gene from either parent is sufficient to prevent the development of a retinoblastoma. Only when both the genes are abnormal, there is the development. And this particular hypothesis is called the double hit hypothesis, can be asked as an MCQ. It is the Knudsen's hypothesis. There are other tumors which can be associated with retinoblastoma, and one such thing is the osteogenic sarcoma. We have covered it in the class on osteosarcoma. The other tumors will be Wilms tumor, rhabdomyosarcoma, and a uveal melanoma. Please mention these. What can be the associated tumors with retinoblastoma? It is a tumor of neuroepithelial origin. After all, the retina itself, it is a more sensitive and a significant development from the neurogenic tissue. So it is of neuroepithelial origin. It can be a nodular mass. As I'm seeing in this, it is a nodular mass. Sometimes externally there can be seedlings. It can be exophytic. It is projecting over here, or it can be endophytic, infiltrating into the surrounding wall or the optic nerve. Rarely, this is a frightening one, I find that it has overgrown the eyeball and it is infiltrating into the surrounding tissue. The tumor varies in size. In this case, it is too large. It has crossed the posterior chamber and almost replaced the entire eye. It is friable. You can appreciate it from the picture itself. Whitish gray, and there are areas of necrosis. Infiltration can occur into the optic nerve or the choroid plexus. Microscopically, this particular pattern you people will have to remember. Retinoblastoma. Blastoma means blastemal cells, which are small undifferentiated cells. These are all the blastemal cells that we are finding. In any of the tumors, be it a neuroblastoma, medulloblastoma, or a retinoblastoma, you will be finding small undifferentiated cells, which are called blastemal cells. Nephroblastoma also. And sometimes the cells can be arranged in rosettes and pseudorosettes. Rosettes means around a central nidus, I find that the cells are arranged and there is a fibrillary material that is projecting into the center. This is called a true rosette. Whereas in some case, it will be surrounding an already circular structure, such as a blood vessel. This is called a pseudorosette. So blastemal cells are undifferentiated cells. Sometimes there can be better differentiation developing into photoreceptor cells. In such cases, the prognosis is better. Spread, as I had mentioned, it can be confined to the posterior chamber, it can become extraocular, it can infiltrate the optic nerve, vascular spread, choroid plexus going into the brain. The treatment, rarely there can be a spontaneous remission, which is very, very rare. Enucleation of the eyeball, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and cryotherapy. These are the modes of treatment for retinoblastoma. The rosettes kindly see again. Around a central nidus or a circle, I am finding that the tumor cells are arranged. There is a fibrillary material that is projecting into the lumen. This is called the Flexner-Wintersteiner true rosette. Whereas in the Homerite rosette, which is a pseudo rosette. So these are the two things I would like you people to appreciate. One is a Flexner-Wintersteiner rosette, another is a Homerite pseudo rosette. Gracias, Debbie.